Got all the questions lined up for all my interviewing skills. You can grade it later on. So,
All right.
all right. The first question I did want to ask Chris is, why now did you decide to invest in a trainer as opposed to 10 years ago, some other time?
It was one of my producers for my podcast was also doing some work with Robert Brace, and he introduced us. And I went down there and met with Robert, and I was looking to step up my workout and to kind of take it to a higher level. And it immediately clicked. It became very clear that Robert was the right guy. Brace Life Studios was the right place, and so we began this journey together, and it's been going on for more than a year now, and it's I can tell the difference. I wasn't really looking to lose weight or anything, but I did want to gain muscle mass, and I did want to improve posture, and I did want to kind of improve focus in a way, and it's all happened, and it's become a very important part of my weekly schedule, and to the point where if I'm traveling, as I was last week, I'll do a remote session. I'll go down to the gym in the hotel with my tripod and my phone and, set it up, and people look at me kind of oddly when I do that, but it's my workout.
Now, looking back now, you're into this now. Do you guys say any regrets of not trying this 2 years ago, 3 years
Oh
ago?
yeah. I wish I'd done it 5 years ago. I've always been active, and I've always either been a runner or, played tennis and ski and, go to the gym, and I've worked out, pretty steadily over my lifetime in one way or another. And I get a lot of steps just, being a New Yorker, just by virtue of being here, you get 10 to 20,000 steps a day, just getting from the places you need to the places you need to go. But I wish I would have gotten into it earlier, but having said that, it came at a great time of life for me, entering my 60s, when, this sort of exercise, this sort of focus, this sort of, stretching especially becomes part of it. And it's about longevity for me. It's about continuing to do a demanding job physically and intellectually to the best of my ability. And I have to tell you, I feel tremendous. I have very little pain. I don't suffer from any knee ailments or hip ailments or back pain. I just kind of, sail through the day. And I think a big part of that is the training methodology that I have with Robert and his team.
Do you not see like a cultural shift as far as older adults, yourself, maybe just?
Oh, I totally do. Absolutely, I do. And I have this conversation with, my sons and, my stepson and stepdaughter as well, and my wife. My dad died of congestive heart failure as a heavy fellow, 8 months older than I am now, and it was sad. He in a way, you live a certain lifestyle, you risk that. But I made up my mind a long time ago that, I was not going to go down that way, and my dad and I are very close, but he had established a lifestyle pattern that, came out of the 50s and 60s, being the 3 martini a day lunch guy in the auto industry. And that was very acceptable. That's how people did business in those days, but it wasn't necessarily linked to a healthy lifestyle unless you change things around at some point. And it became really clear to me that, to do this for another 10, 15, 20 years, as, my colleagues who are older than me have done successfully, you need to really focus on your physical ability and to create an environment where you feel good. It doesn't tear you up to get on a plane and go coast to coast, or to work till 2:00 in the morning on a sting operation. You have to be, I think that the physical fitness and the mental acuity go hand in hand. I think there's very definitely a link there. And I think scientific studies, now show that. And there's a little bit of me that, feels pride in leading by example. I think all my kids tend to be, it's not unhelpful to them that they see their old man doing this, and you do lead by example at some point. And so I encourage them to follow suit. And I've had, my wife has been to Robert Brace, my sons have been there, and my stepdaughter has been there, and it's great fun. They really get a kick out of going when they're in town.
Now, with how physically, even mentally exhausting is it to see to see one project go from finding your subject, mapping it out, planning it out, setting it up, and finishing it? How does that drain on you, like over the long haul?
Well, it can be draining. And one of the reasons why we started True Blue was, the last couple of documentaries I did that were on Discovery Plus, by the time you go through the A meeting and the B meeting and the C meeting and the green light meeting and all the bureaucracy that's in place, these projects, a 5-hour series can be 12 to 24 months in production, start to finish. At True Blue, where we're leaner and we're more focused and we know what we're going to do, we know what the franchises are, we can be more nimble, we can turn these things around in a fraction of the time and get the content to the consumer. What we really do here is we've applied the same kind of enterprising techniques that we use in reporting, whether it's a predator investigation or any other of the documentaries we're working on. And we've just applied that to the distribution of the content to more directly and efficiently, yet still creatively, get it to our consumer. And in the process, to own the content, with Sean Reck, my partner at Transition Studio, and to own the flow of the content is the future of my business, I believe. And at some point, even if a network were to, buy us, they would still want us to do this sort of, to do the day-to-day stuff that we do so well, because their bureaucracy in many cases at the larger networks doesn't allow them to come up with an idea on a Tuesday and have a crew do it on Thursday, in the way that we do it. So it's for a guy like me, I think it's the future of the way we not only create content, but distribute it.
What makes it so popular? Year in, year out, episode after episode. What makes it so popular?
Well, I think crime stories are as old as the Bible. It's good versus evil. People are very much fascinated by it, and the way we report on it and produce these shows, we take people inside the crime. In many cases, in the Predator franchise, in the Takedown Predator franchise, they're seeing the commission of a felony in real time. They're seeing justice when that guy comes face to face with me and then gets arrested by authorities in real time. They get to see things and hear things they wouldn't normally see and hear. And even if it's not something where there's a sting necessarily, there's usually a confrontation. In the Tracy Hutsona story, the con woman who scammed so many people, including Jemana Kidd, we confront her outside her restaurant and ask about her faking long haul COVID so she doesn't get sentenced when she's supposed to. We ask about the $3 million she stole from Jemana Kidd and her children's college fund to open 2 restaurants. And we dig into her history with many, many in-depth interviews that paint a portrait of this human being, a true American con artist. And people aren't going to see this sort of work anywhere else. And we have access because I have 40 years of being on television and having a brand, largely because of the Predator franchise, where I have access to law enforcement and to information, and people are willing to open up and talk to me. And that's a real advantage in this business.
Now, is there one part of the whole process that people would be surprised that is kind of physically exhausting or even mentally exhausting more than you would expect?
Well, I think physically, especially in the Predator investigations, you're on your feet for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours. You have to move and adjust. It's a volatile situation. And even though law enforcement is present, and I think it's as safe as we can possibly make it, there's an inherent risk there. And so you need to be sharp, you need to be focused, you need to be agile, and you need to be fit to do it. And also, look, it's television, right? It's on camera. And people who view you, although they're understanding about being 63 years old, they expect to see, a certain presentation of a human being who's going to tell them the story. And you're allowed to age, but you're supposed to do it gracefully, you know?
And now
Look
the
at
question
Robert, he's 10 years older than I am.
right here, which leads to the perfect. Chris already said that when he first came to you, he wanted to necessarily not get leaner, but get stronger, more physically. What did you assess when your first assessment? What were you looking for to see from Chris, and how did you determine here's where we had to go?
Well, initially with Chris, I wanted to see what his, not only his physical goals, but his life goals are. You know, I knew that he was over 60, and along with that comes certain things that we as trainers, or my specific focus needs to be specifically, you know, look, if he's over 60, and I think Chris might be even downplaying it a little bit. If you've seen some of the footage, especially that footage of Germanic Kid when he's actually having to chase down her, and there's a whole crew behind him, like it's physically, there's a lot going on there physically. So for me, I knew I needed to do a few things. After listening to his lifestyle, how intense it is, knowing that he has a network, but not only a network, but a show coming up, that he needed to present a certain way, right? So we needed to build his testosterone. As you age, your testosterone starts to sink with that lean muscle mass, with that focus, and with that a certain kind of joie de vivre, life intensity goes. And so for that, at that time, Chris, you know, you can interject if I'm giving away your secrets here. But at that time, Chris was doing Peloton and lifting around 3 pounds to 5 pounds with the Peloton, right? For a man of his age, we know that that's not going to be enough to get his testosterone up and his lean muscle mass up. So we started to put him on a track to safely lift heavier. And for that media piece that you saw that we produced in a photo shoot, we got into a place where he's gone from lifting 3 to 5 pound weights to where he's bench pressing 135 pounds, right? And, you know, using 20s, 25s, and 30s. So, you know, you want to do it in a safe way so that it supports his life. But then in addition to that, you know, it's stressful what he does going across the country, right? And so we knew that there needed to be, what we do is the mind, body, soul. And we don't mean that in just an ethereal way, right? We needed to give him a workout that would give him that mental clarity. What does that mean in the actual workout? Endocannabinoids, what the body produces when you work out intensely for at least 20 minutes. You actually have to push through. That is known as the body's bliss hormone, which reduces anxiety, which reduces stress, and which gives you mental focus, right? And so in each one of his workouts, there is a section where we're pushing him to his limits for at least 20 minutes so that he not only gets the physical results, but he does get that endocannabinoid serotonin boost that is going to give him the stress relief and mental clarity that he needs, right? And in addition, posture and mobility. I mean, that was one thing that we knew from the beginning with Chris coming in, and that has improved dramatically. You look at those pictures, he's just done a fantastic job with his upper back and standing up straight, and it works for him on camera. So those where our focus was after I met and talked with Chris. And look, the physical transformation is great, but it is much more than that. It's supporting his mental acuity, his mental focus, and reducing his stress levels.
That sounds like a lot to handle. And yeah, when I saw you guys, it took you maybe an hour's worth of work to accomplish that. Now, is that something that there's a misconception that all this work needs to take 2.5 hours, 3 hours a day out of your schedule?
Well, yeah, I think, listen, I think that I gotta say this right, if people do the research, there are ways, and this is what we've done for years, to effectively work with bodies to achieve certain results, safe results, in a shorter amount of time. It just means being disciplined with the techniques. The 20-minute serotonin protocol is one. Interval training, I'm sure you and many of your readers have heard of Tabatas, which is a 4-minute protocol developed by the Japanese Olympic training doctor on how to increase your endurance, your heart rate, your lean muscle mass with a 4-minute protocol. So already you got a 20-minute protocol, you got a 4-minute protocol, that's 25 minutes. that is boosting your metabolism, increasing your lean muscle mass, and giving you the mental focus and stress relief that you need. And then we still got 35 minutes to build more muscle, to work posture, to work on alignment. I mean, I first got started in the industry doing a 25-minute workout, and where we would transform bodies in 25 minutes, right? And so, yes, a whole thing at Brace Life Studios is a mind, body, soul journey within an hour. And with that in addition to that 35 minutes, there's still 10 minutes for one of our breathing exercises or our meditations. So we get all of that done within the hour, but it means being disciplined, paying attention to the latest research, and knowing the craft, as opposed to it just being a fad. This really is about the craft of transforming mind, bodies, and souls. So,
what were some of the things you had to target? What were some of the moves that you had to, I guess, incorporate for Chris to get that posture from poor to better than excellent?
yeah, I mean, Chris was kyphotic, which just means his back arches over and his shoulders roll forward, right? And that happens with age. It happens with people sitting at their computers all day. If he's editing all day, plus a pandemic, that's all gonna, exacerbate that issue. And so from my, movement, dance, and athletic background, it really is about strengthening the back muscles, the lat muscles. It's about opening up the flexibility in his chest and his shoulders, and gradually just getting the scapula back and helping him be mindful in every movement and interaction to really hold his posture, right? In addition, obviously, core, and more core. The core is the key to everything. And so the more that we strengthen his core, the more that we strengthen those back muscles, opened up his chest cavity, roll those shoulders back, and paid specific attention to it with some body manipulation and massage techniques, that's how we improve that posture.
Is that something people overlook in their training program, whether you're 50, whether you're 60, whether you're 30? Is the importance of posture, instead of, hey, I'm getting a trainer because, hey, I want to get strong, or I want to do a marathon, but you know what, my posture, we can do without that today. I'm not paying for that.
Absolutely. It's one of the last things people think about. I mean, we recently did a spot on the Today Show just about this. And, as with my background as a professional dancer, ballet dancer, that's where that comes from. But listen, with improved posture, you get better movement efficiency, which means that your muscles will change quicker. You prevent injury, again, which means you got more training time. And 3, you increase the surface area over which any load happens in the body, meaning your muscles transform quicker. So it's aesthetically, it's just a better way to look. It's efficiency of movement, safety of movement, functional movement. There's so many benefits to it. And look, if you're standing in an aligned position with good posture, you can make yourself look thinner, your waist look thinner, your chest look wider just by changing your posture, right? And also presents well. If Chris is in front of an audience all the time, not only on screen, but on stage, with the amount of presentations that he gives, it just gives a better presentation. So yeah, posture for me is everything. We call it fierce form, paying fierce attention to the form in every single movement. And that's been a part of the whole Brace Life and 28-day challenge philosophy.
How do you see yourself transform from a year ago, where I guess it was not the greatest posture, now to at your best, I would say?
Yeah, I think again, it's, to me, and there's a little bit of vanity here, when you are seen in a profile shot and your sport coat's open, or you're not wearing a sport coat, and you're hunched over, it's not a great looking shot, and it's not good for your body either. You need to open it up. And so when I look at the video Robert took and the pictures before we started, it was hunchy. And today it's straight, and I don't have back pain, and I don't feel as tight when I get off an airplane. And I think it's obviously improved posture, but also the stretching that we do after the intense workout is critical to me, I think, at my age, and it goes hand in hand with the posture. But my posture has improved phenomenally. And, I have to sit in the editing room. I have to look at the shots. I have to see everything from all angles. I can choose which ones we use and not use sometimes. But, the goal is not to edit around how you look. It's to look how you need to be to tell the story. And it's an overall health and well-being. And again, I mentioned earlier, my dad, who was overweight, my mom had very severe osteoporosis in her later years. And I watched her struggle with that. And we even researched, kyphoplasty for her at one point, and just, she was too old and it was too far gone to actually do it, where they inject the material into the spinal column to straighten you up. And it just caused a whole host of problems for her, including, it was so severe that it was condensing her lungs and her heart, and she had physical problems related to that. So, they were not necessarily horribly unhealthy people, but you learn these things and you pay attention to them as you grow older. And everything I read and everything I've learned from Robert and his team suggests that the best way to stay ahead of it and to be comfortable in your 70s is to live a certain way in your 60s. And the decade prior, your behavior there is going to dictate what the next decade is, I think. And so, what I'm doing now not only makes me feel good every day and helps me to be better at my job, happier in my personal relationships, but also is going to bode well for me, I think, when I turn the next corner and, you're 70. I mean, I'll give you a great example. Joseph Smith, who owns Bobby Van's steakhouses here in town and in other cities as well, just turned 75. And I'll take him as a tennis partner any day. I mean, he's crafty, he stays thin, he stays fit, he works out, and he stretches. Now, he's not without his knee replacement and his ankle replacement and things like that, but he's 75, and you wouldn't say, oh, there's a 75-year-old man. He's running a restaurant empire, and he's a damn good tennis player. And I think when you have pals like that who are, 12 years older than you, who are still in the game and competitive with you, that's where you want to be in 12 years, So those, and I'm fortunate to be surrounded by those people. And it kind of keeps you focused on what you need to do, both from a business angle, professionally, and a personal angle as well.
So what advice would you give then the person who was in your shoes a year ago? Maybe wanted to try it, but not ready to commit to it full time.
I think you need to commit to it. I mean, look, there are a lot of exercises. There are a lot of workouts that you can do independently. Robert mentioned Peloton. I use Peloton a ton. I've got one in the apartment, and at our house we have a treadmill, and we have weights everywhere, and we stay fit. But there is no substitute for a guy like me, at least, for the personal trainer and getting engaged in a program where you're driven to surpass what you did the day before. I got up at 5:30 this morning, not really crazy about 5:30 this morning, but I had the trainer at 7. And so you get on the train and you listen to your music, you get down there and you get fired up and you do it. And once you're finished at 8, when you have the entire day ahead of you, you feel a lot better than you did at 5:30. There's a sense of accomplishment. And also it's a very unique setting because I have personal relationships with Robert, with Salim, with the other trainers. So, I get more out of this than just being physically fit. I mean, Robert and I have become good friends, and we, advise each other on business matters, and we talk about personal and family matters. And, it's a trusted friendship where, you can confide in somebody. You can say, okay, I was, 20 years ago, I was right where you were, and this is what I did, or what do you think about that? So it's more than just, get your ass down there and give me 20. It's a unique thing, and you don't get this everywhere to go to a trainer. I'm not suggesting that, people can't get what I get. in other programs, but it's a very unique, special bond and experience that I have there. And I look forward to it every time.
Now, have you made any other lifestyle changes, dietary, lifestyle because of this, or?
I'm relatively careful with diet. I don't drink alcohol. I try to avoid carbs. I don't smoke. I haven't smoked in a million years. But and I'm not poo-pooing alcohol. I think that in moderation it's great. And I've had many drinks over the years. But at this stage of the game, it just doesn't fit into my formula. Yeah, I'll have a dessert. I was a pig at Thanksgiving with everybody else. We can't just have a turkey. We have to have a turkey and a ham, and not just mashed potatoes, but church potatoes with cheesy stuff in it. But but if you do that for a couple of days, you throttle it back, and I generally try to avoid too many sugars and carbs, and I stick with protein. But I don't avoid steak, for instance. I mean, I try at night, I have a protein and certainly some vegetables, and I try to daily stick to those 3 or 4 things that I know are important. Blueberries, cucumber for hydration, other things that I know work and keep your system pretty healthy. So